Hi, everyone. It's really a privilege to be here. This is actually my first AWE conference, and I've already been quite inspired. But to kick off my talk, I wanted to pose a question. Why does innovation in storytelling matter? I think this quote from Ursula K. Le Guin says it all. There have been great societies that did not use the wheel, but there have been no societies that did not tell stories. Stories are as much a part of us as life itself. And so when there are new ways to tell stories, as with immersive platforms, we as a part of Disney and Lucasfilm should be there, pioneering. And many of you are joining us in forging that future. But I think we have to remember that what we do right now is incredibly important. It's a responsibility, because it matters in the way that people will form opinions about the potential of these new mediums. Before I get into the heart of my talk, I think it helps to know a little bit about me. I've been with Lucasfilm for 27 years over the last 31 years. I started at ILM when we had just finished Willow, and we were in production on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. At that time, there were 6 computer graphic artists at ILM. They happened to be on the same hall as I was. Now there are more than 1,200 artists in 4 studios worldwide. Early on, I ran a small team called Lucasfilm Learning. It was actually a part of LucasArts, which was the games division. We sought to combine interactivity, high-quality media, and storytelling in support of multidisciplinary educational experiences. And the way you did it back then was with a computer-driven Laserdisc player. This was even pre-CD-ROM. That screenshot up above is from a prototype that we did in the early 90s that was called Paul Parkranger and the Mystery of the Disappearing Ducks. And I really include that just because it actually has a lot of relevance for what we're doing today in terms of using place as your interface. I have a lifelong passion for cross-platform storytelling, and what I really strive to do is to be a catalyst for innovation and creativity. To that end, I'd like to talk about what led to the birth of ILMxLAB, why we believe immersive storytelling is unique, where we are both as a division and as an industry, and how we see the future. I'm hoping that our journey, that of ILMxLAB, can provide some insights and inspiration to all of you who seek to be pioneers in this space. So how did ILMxLAB get here in the first place? Well, many of you know that our story began more than 4 decades ago. George Lucas created one of the richest and deepest narratives ever brought to life. But equally importantly, he inspired a culture of innovation and a pioneering spirit. Core to his vision were the establishment of ILM and Skywalker Sound. And these are really our roots and our legacy. As you know, the film business is more than 125 years old. And even video games are more than 40 years old. So both are mature businesses in their own right. A few years ago, we began asking ourselves what was next. We recognized that these emerging technologies could be new platforms for expression, that they would allow us to convey emotion and establish deep and intimate connections to story and place. And so with a compelling foundation laid through R&D and real-time technology, we launched ILMxLAB in 2015 to allow people for the first time to literally step inside our stories. What guides us is this notion that creativity leads and technology enables. But sometimes technology also inspires. It sparks our imagination in ways that we wouldn't have otherwise thought. So let's talk about why we believe immersive storytelling is unique from other storytelling mediums. We believe these platforms are powerful. Why? Well, for VR, it's the power of being there, which is really about world building and placemaking. For AR or MR, it's about the power of being here. And for both, it's the power of connection. Immersion provides a unique opportunity to interact with characters, and if they respond to you in compelling and meaningful ways, it opens up entirely new possibilities. We have 2 primary areas of focus. First, location-based immersive adventures. Through these, we can deliver scope and scale, and we can invoke all of the senses because we control 100% of the environment. Next, we have original VR episodics. And here, these are primarily intended for the home. We're able to deliver deeper story through extended engagement. We do our best to continue doing innovation experiments in order to learn and evolve and push the state of the art. But we're pointing toward a future where our approach to storytelling is holistic, and we seek to create connected, complementary experiences, leading toward this idea of living worlds. We believe that the whole can truly be greater than the sum of the parts. Our goal is to move from this idea of storytelling to story living. This is no longer a one-way communication. You are the hero of your own adventure. And today I want to talk a little bit about what this means for Star Wars. So first, I want to talk about Star Wars Secrets of the Empire, which is a hyper-reality experience. It was created by ILMxLAB in collaboration with The Void, and it was really our first major foray into immersive experience building. This is a location-based experience that you do with your family and friends. So in approaching this experience, we acknowledged that it was something new and different. It was not a film, it was not a game, and it was not a theme park attraction. But we knew that we could actually learn from all of those. We also had to remember that there were technology constraints. This was a real-time experience, meaning it had to render at 90 frames per second. Now, for perspective, an ILM rendered frame for a feature film usually takes 10 minutes to 8 hours, sometimes overnight, to render a single frame. In VR, we have only 11 milliseconds per frame, and yet we're striving for that same cinematic quality. Here's a trailer from the experience.
This is Mon Mothma. I have an assignment for you. The rebellion needs you, and we don't have much time. You must work together. You must not fail. In disguise, your team's mission is to recover Imperial intelligence critical to our survival.
You're with me. The rest of you, get on that skiff. Do your best to act Imperial.
Looks like you'll have to fight your way out.
What is that?
This could be a threat to our entire existence.
So something was wrong with the back half of that. You can watch it online. So what is special about this kind of hyperreality? It seems we're having a problem with the video. Let's see if we can get that back up. But in the meantime, what hyperreality is the marriage of the physical world with the virtual world. So where you see a wall in the virtual world, there's actually a physical wall. So if you reach out and touch it, it'll be there. And that one-to-one mapping causes your brain to immediately buy into the reality. We're also able to invoke all of the senses. So we had transducers in the floor that were driven by audio created by Skywalker sound, and it made the floors rumble. It felt as if you were really moving on that skiff. There were fans, heaters, and scent generators that further enhanced the world. All of this combines to make you really believe that you're on the hot, windy lava fields of Mustafar. So again, it was this power of being there, or what's often referred to as the power of presence. The power of connection comes not only from interacting with the virtual characters, but also from your experience with your family and friends. In Act 1, prior to donning the headset, Cassian, who was played by Diego Luna, just as he was in Rogue One, introduces us to our mission. Disguised as stormtroopers, we must recover Imperial intelligence that's vital to the rebellion's survival. What's interesting is that in many ways, this becomes as much about your journey as about the mission itself. I want to play for you some testimonials from people who visited the downtown Disney location and listen for how people felt transported.
I've been wanting to step into a Star Wars movie for as long as I could remember, and I think getting to see that and touch that and feel that really put me in that film unlike anything else ever has, and it was a dream come true, really.
If you ever really want to be in Star Wars, the Void is where you're going to go to do that.
We got to be characters in the movie. You can't get that anywhere else.
You can't get it anywhere else. From the minute you walk in and you have the briefing from Captain Cassian, it's like you're in Rogue One.
I mean, you were walking right there where Anakin became Darth Vader, and it was incredible. It was transformative.
The moment when we picked up our blasters,
Yeah,
and then the guy that we were with accidentally fired his, and so then all the alarms went off, and we're like, oh my God!
The thing Void does that's really cool is you reach out and you can actually touch the walls around you.
Okay, but if you want to feel like you're actually in a Star Wars movie, you need to come do this.
If you've never experienced it, it's undescribable,
Yeah.
so it's like, how do I describe this to you? You just have to go, you just got to do it.
So the result of this kind of experience is that it creates a memory of a place as if you had truly been there. Think about that. So by leaning into the power of being there and the power of connection in an interactive, narrative-driven experience, we begin to move from that notion of storytelling to story living. To underscore the idea of being transported and transformative, very early on, we had a visitor go through in a wheelchair. She'd never been able to walk, and she was nervous for the experience. When she came out, she was teary-eyed, and obviously the staff was very concerned. She said, "No, you don't understand. My friends just got to see me walk. I may have been in another world and dressed as a stormtrooper, but for the first time, my friends just got to walk beside me." And we've heard countless stories of people like this who have been in wheelchairs, who have been blind, etc. It is amazing how transformative this can actually be. So let's talk a little bit about where we are. On May 21st, just last week, we released episode 1 of Vader Immortal, by far our most ambitious immersive storytelling project to date. It's an episodic 3-part series for the Oculus Quest, and it'll soon be released for the Rift and Rift S. If you're a Star Wars fan, this series takes place between Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and Episode 4, A New Hope. You also saw the monolith in Rogue One. But we intentionally chose the truly iconic character, Darth Vader. This was also a period in the Star Wars timeline that had not been deeply explored. So early on, to sort of convince ourselves that we were on the right track, we did a test. Darth Vader walks up to you, towers over you, and looks you in the eye. The connection was so powerful and so impactful that when you were in the headset, you scarcely processed that he was actually speaking to you. And it taught us a lot about pacing. Your brain literally needed a moment to simply digest what you were experiencing. This was also a foray into this idea of connected stories. So Star Wars Secrets of the Empire essentially sets up Vader Immortal. And whereas in Secrets of the Empire you are on an outpost on Mustafar and you could see Vader's monolith in the distance, now you have the opportunity to go into the monolith and engage with Vader on his home turf, not to mention wield a lightsaber. Again, the idea of place and connection. This is a trailer for that experience.
You've caused us considerable inconvenience. In a moment, the Lord of this monolith will give you a task. A word of advice. Do not anger Vader.
Now that Vader's found you, he's in reach of enormous power. You must escape.
Grab my hand!
Vader is after.
It appears Vader has finally found his candidate. And our future is in your hands. Vader is here.
You are the one I've been searching for. Do as I command.
Is there any version of this plan that doesn't end up with us being dead?
So in April, we were in Chicago for Star Wars Celebration, which is 4 days with 60,000 Star Wars fans. It's a unique experience. That was where we first demoed a small slice of Vader Immortal Episode 1. And this little sizzle reel I'm going to show you was actually primarily created to share internally with people that didn't get to make the trip. But I think it gives you a sense of the excitement.
Who out here likes Darth Vader? Yes! We have a tremendous lineup of panelists here. Narrative designer Moen Leo, writer and executive producer David S. Goyer, director Ben Snow, head of media for Oculus Colin Slevin, executive of Lucasfilm Story Group Matt Martin.
Star Wars has helped push the technology of film and the technology of storytelling. ILMxLAB helping carry on that tradition.
We wanted to come up with something that would take advantage of the VR medium. We decided to set the whole experience on Mustafar. You're going to get to learn a lot about why Vader's home is there and what he's after.
This has allowed us to really explore Mustafar, explore its history, learn the cultures of the planet.
Tell us about this droid co-pilot.
She's played by Maya Rudolph, and she's hysterical. We kind of sketch in the dialogue and just say, Maya, go for it.
Is there any version of this plan that doesn't end up with us being dead?
We actually had this brainstorming session from a just pure wish fulfillment. What are things, if we were in Star Wars, we would want to do? Like, yeah, I want a lightsaber. I want to do a ton of stuff with it.
There's something really gratifying about deflecting blaster bolts back.
I was kicking at the air, but when you're in it, it's like that feels necessary. It feels like you have to kick above your head in order to get these things that are flying at you. But it's so cool. It's so cool.
VR has this unique opportunity to make you feel like you've actually met a fictional character, like in person.
But just seeing Vader, he's a lot bigger than I thought. I had to look up pretty high.
That's not Star Wars on the other side of the screen, but it's like you're in Star Wars.
Lightsaber training was intense, to say the least. Look, there's your proof.
I always wanted to be in that universe. I always wanted to encounter these characters. This project is the fulfillment of that promise to our childhood selves.
So we had over 75 press outlets and influencers from around the world experience the demo. And what I loved most was the way that people talked about what it was like to be in Star Wars, because that's what we set out to do. I also love the CNET quote, "I arrived in this experience a VR skeptic and left it very much a believer." Obviously, we're all looking for that kind of adoption. We're also really interested in mixed reality storytelling. So again, whereas VR lets you see a different world, AR lets you see the world differently. And as a part of our collaboration with Magic Leap, we wanted to explore what it would be like to establish a relationship with a character in our world. So the story actually becomes our evolving relationship and how that matures over time. So rather than a story that's told over minutes or hours, it may be a story that's told over days, weeks, or even months. And thereby it really broadens the traditional storytelling boundaries. This next short video speaks to our aspirations in this space.
The story of Project Porg is that Chewbacca has left a device along with a Porg, and C-3PO has sent a message that explains how you can take care of it.
Oh my god.
Project Porg is an aspirational experiment, and it's important because we can spark people's imagination about what's going to be possible in the world of mixed reality.
Chewbacca suggests you try offering the Porg a treat.
Mixed reality places you at the center, and an experience can start in the home, continue throughout the journey, and culminate in this transformative destination.
Forward a bit. Our relationship with entertainment is changing. Imagine what hide and seek might be like in a mixed reality future. The hall closet will be BB-8's favorite place to hide. Over time, this little girl will come to expect this because she knows BB-8 as a friend, as a true character companion. And when she grows up, this girl, who is now a woman, will carry that memory of how BB-8 always hid in the closet. This will remain her reality. It's a real memory. It's personal, and it's potentially lasting. And it's not something that has to be experienced alone. Many of us may have our droid companions. So where are we going? Well, I've already given you a glimpse of a mixed reality future, but to more fully express these thoughts, I borrowed some graphics from a colleague who thought 8-bit images best reflect the fact that we can only begin to imagine the future's true manifestation. As we look toward the future, we believe compelling, immersive experiences will not be adaptations. They will be wholly unique, designed for the strengths of the individual medium. Experiences will extend across platforms. Your character companion can join you on your journey and can recognize not only your friends, but their virtual companions as well. Imagine mixed reality overlays to theme parks, public locations, your home. Self-driving cars will become entertainment hubs. And map cities and buildings will allow us to take mixed reality to the streets. There will be an opportunity for AR social events. Maybe it's the culmination of an ongoing adventure. And what previously you had experienced alone, the finale is experienced together. Regardless of where we are in the cycle or which device we focus on, we believe in the future. We seek to be pioneers in all shades of reality. We want to create experiences that are dynamic, social, personal, and hopefully even transformational. From all that I've shared, what I'd like you to most take away is that story does matter. It's story that propels the action, story that triggers emotion, story that gives us that sense of fulfillment. And it is possible to move from storytelling to story living. So in closing, as we continue to pioneer and innovate, celebrating the opportunities and confronting the inherent challenges of doing something new, we must remember the words of Master Yoda, do or do not, there is no try. Thank you. So I can take a few questions. What is your favorite testimonial? My favorite, I think we're using this Slido.com. My favorite testimonial actually was the one of the woman that was in a wheelchair, because I think that really underscored how transportative VR can be and how transformational it can be if the experience is done well. How do we choose the projects we work on? We're constantly trying to push the state of the art and push the boundaries. So we're looking for projects that are first of kind. One of the interesting things about Vader Immortal Episode 1 is that it's really intended to be an interactive narrative. There actually is it's about a 45-minute to an hour interactive narrative experience. And then there's another module that is about it's a lightsaber dojo, and it goes through about 40 different rounds where you can do sort of lightsaber training. But our goal in that was to really engage you in a story that would place you at the center as the hero of your own adventure. And it's been interesting because while the response has been overwhelmingly positive, there are people that are coming from a much more core traditional gaming place that this doesn't match their expectations. And I think, but again, this is what happens when you try to do something that is first of kind. We continue to push the boundaries in the Void experiences. So we started with Star Wars Secrets of the Empire. We then did one, Ralph Breaks VR, and we're now working on a Marvel Void project. So in every case, pushing into the future. And then we're really interested in exploring more of the mixed reality space. There will be 3 episodes of Vader Immortal. The first one was released, and the other 2 have not, there have been no release dates yet mentioned. Have you explored enhancing education with Star Wars XR content? Well, personally, I would love to do that because, of course, it goes back to my Lucasfilm Learning days. And we've had some early conversations about what that might look like and how that might be possible. I certainly think it's an interesting area of exploration. When will Yoda be available as a virtual mentor? I'm not sure. Let's see. What's the next big thing? For us, we're really interested in, as I was saying, this idea of approaching connected stories. Designing an entire, sometimes when I say this, people think I'm talking about an MMO, where people go into a world and stories unfold and they affect the world and the world responds to them. But I'm actually talking about more of a creative framework, where you think about the sort of grand narrative design, and then you create individual story modules, each of which could be experienced on their own and be very satisfying. But if experienced in their totality, you truly get that sense of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So we're looking at places and times and characters in the Star Wars universe that might serve that purpose. Can you share some of the past failure that we can learn from it? Well, we've certainly learned a lot along the way, and some of it, we do our best to adapt to it while we're in production. Pacing was a really interesting one. When we did our first VR experience, it was, we basically wrote it like you would write a movie script. And what ended up happening as we played through it over and over again, we realized that VR is so new to people, to most people, that they actually could not digest most of the dialogue. So we had to strip out everything that wasn't vital for them to understand what to do next. So that was interesting about pacing. Something that won't surprise any of you is the absolute power of sound in VR and AR too, because again, you don't control the camera, you're in essence the camera in this case. And so sound is a really important way to be able to help people, guide people to where you want them to focus. And of course, we've been learning how to monetize, because that also has been, I think, the really next major hurdle that we all as an industry need to overcome. One of the reasons that we were, it was an interesting anecdote when we were at Celebration. A number of journalists actually thought the 7-minute demo that they did was actually the entire experience, because they were so used to very short, non-game experiences. And when I realized that, I was like, we actually started our conversation with them going forward about this is not the whole experience, this is just a small slice. I think I'll do one more, I think I'm over, but how do you strike a balance between telling a story versus letting a user experience the story? That is a really good question, and one that we think a lot about. When we did Trials on Tatooine, which was really our first experiment, that was trying to understand the balance between interactivity and light story. But in the, one of the things that was important to us, and it's been true of actually every single one of our experiences, is the user does not change the outcome. It is, and part of that is from our history, where it's really about masters. We believe in the power of a master storyteller. But what does change is the journey. And we have noticed that, through creating a number of these different experiences, people's journey can be quite radically different depending on what they did, how they did it, how they felt about what they did. So that's actually how we've chosen to strike that balance right now. I know many people are doing branching stories and so forth, and it's not to say we won't at some point in the future, but that's the decision we've made to date. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.